Good afternoon. It is Sunday, the first day of May 2016. So glad that you're watching KTN News. This is Weekend at 1 with me, Sharon Momanyi. First, we apologize for that erroneous news highlights that has just run, and we begin the news bulletin right now. Now, the country has begun 3 days of national mourning following the arrival of the body of former First Lady Lucy Kibaki. Top government dignitaries led by President Uhuru Kenyatta were at the airport to receive the body that was accompanied by retired President Kibaki and members of his family. KTN's Murimi Mwangi now reports on the events at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport this morning.
Sunday morning at 10 minutes to 5, and the plane carrying the body of Mama Lucy Muthoni Kibaki landed at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. A dark cloud of grief would hover over the JKIA VIP lounge for the next 1 hour before the doors of the Dreamliner finally swung open at 10 minutes past 6. Then the man who had for 54 years been the loving husband of the former First Lady, retired President Mwai Kibaki, together with the members of his family, strode down the plane's stairway. The family was with their matriarch when she died on Tuesday morning at a London hospital. Behind them was the coffin draped in Kenyan flag. A host of national leaders led by President Uhuru Kenyatta, his deputy William Ruto and First Lady Margaret Kenyatta were here to receive the body and condole with the grieving family.
Chastised a little, yes, they shall be greatly blessed, because God tried them and found them worthy of himself.
The body was taken to Lee Funeral Home as the country begins 3 days of national mourning, during which the national flag will be raised at half-mast. A national working committee comprising members of retired President Kibaki's family and national leaders will make the final preparations for Mama Lucy's burial. The burial is slated for Saturday at Kanyange Village, Kibaki's rural home in Othaya, Nyeri County. Mama Lucy has left behind 3 sons and a daughter. Murimi Mwangi, KTN News in Nairobi.
Meanwhile, a national working committee has been constituted comprising members of the Kibaki family and government officials to ensure the former First Lady receives a befitting send-off, according to government spokesman Eric Kiraithe. Kenyans are also invited to share their tributes to the late Lucy Kibaki. Condolence books have been unveiled at various areas, including Harambee House, Parliament, KICC, Holy Family Basilica, Consolata Shrine, Westlands, and all the 47 county headquarters. Now, 2 more bodies have been recovered at the tragic Huruma building collapse site. This raises the death toll to 14. The number of those still unaccounted for now stands at 67. So far, 130 people have been rescued from the rubble. Let's now bring in our reporter, Timothy Otieno, who is keeping tabs on this developing story at Huruma. And Timothy, if you can hear me, do we know if there are any more people who have been rescued from the rubble or any more bodies perhaps retrieved from there?
So far none, Sharon, so far none has been removed from the rubble. So far, as I had earlier stated, this is really a sensitive operation because of the weather and the logistical challenges in terms of infrastructure and accessing the area. So the area has since been cordoned off, and right now, actually where we are right now is at the Huruma CDF Social Hall, where the Kenya Red Cross set up a tent for the friends, loved ones and families of those who have their people still missing to come and register here so that the Red Cross can be able to trace and perhaps link the family members with their loved ones once they have been extracted from the rubble. Now, a very big crowd is, of course, as you can see behind me here, and I'm even joined with some of the people who are searching for their loved ones. The mood here is really nervous and tense atmosphere, even as families and people throng to this area to try and find out if their loved ones are indeed safe and secure. I'm now joined by one of the family members who is joining me here. Thank you so much for joining KTN News this afternoon. Maybe you could begin by telling us your full names and who you are looking for here at the Kenya Red Cross tent.
Kwa majina ni Margaret Akinyi. Nimekuja kutafuta wapendwa wangu. Walikuwa 5, watu wakubwa 2 na watoto 3. Na hakuna hata mmoja yule ameshapatikana. Sasa bado tunaongojea kama wataweza kupatikana. Tutaomba Mungu atusaidie.
How are you related? Unawajua 5 vipi? Ni wanawe ama labda in-laws ama kitu kama hiyo?
Ni wadada ya.
Sasa labda unaweza katueleza mlizungumza nao mwisho lini?
Hatujaongea nao watu. Mimi mtoto ya ndugu yangu amepotea, ametupa kijana yake, ametupa mother-in-law, ametupa masemeji wake, ametupa watoto wa msemeji wake 3, lakini hatujawapata, hatujawaona.
Vile mlipofika hapa mmeregister hayo complaints kwa Kenya Red Cross, wamewaeleza vipi? Ni ujumbe upi ambao wamewapatia hata mkingoja?
Tungoje, they still searching the bodies, ama wale kuna wale wanasikia bado wako chini, they still searching the bodies, bado tunangoja.
Serikali ya kaunti ya Nairobi imesema kwamba imetenga milioni 2 kusaidia katika hospital bills na mambo ya mochari kuhusiana na janga ambalo lilifanyika Huruma siku 2 zilizopita. Maoni yako kuhusiana na ujumbe huo?
Mimi niko hapa nje, sijajua kitu yoyote. Lakini bibi ya mtoto ndugu yangu ndio ako huko ndani.
Kwa hivyo hapa sasa ni mna matumaini kwamba mtawapata, na we wish you guys all the best even as you try and search. As you can see, Sharon, really a somber mood. Most of them can't talk, traumatized even as they try to search for their loved ones. Of course, as I have stated, Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero indeed visited the area just about 40 minutes ago and said that the county government has pledged 2 million shillings to go towards the medical expenses for those who have been injured, the mortuary fees for those who have passed away, as well as the funeral expenses for all those who have been affected by the building collapse. Now, earlier on, of course, I was speaking to the inspector, I was speaking to the manager for the Kenya Red Cross, Michael, who was telling us that, of course, the operation is really slow because the building can only be accessed through one point, and that is the open point. The other, because of the closeness to the other buildings, they could not do the operations any faster because accessibility and accessing that area is indeed slow. But of course, a lot of questions have still been raised and are being raised in regards to the construction and the alleged permits that are given for the constructions of these buildings. Last year in January, 2 people died and 37 others were injured after a similar building collapsed just in the same area in Huruma. And this highlighting just what are the procedures of coming up with a building. And this is not only tasked to the county government, there is a chain of command that these people want to be held accountable. Among them is the chief engineer and the chief architect for this building. Of course, Sharon, if you know, the way construction of a building involves a lot of things, including planning and quantity survey. So where were the quantity surveyors, and how come this building was being occupied despite the fact that it did not have an occupation certificate? And in regards to this, the county government has said that on Tuesday, indeed, heads will roll at the Nairobi County government, and the people tasked with inspecting the buildings for occupation will have to answer to the government. He has promised that action indeed will be taken. But meanwhile here, the crowd behind me, very expectant and hopeful that their loved ones, they will be able to identify them and they will be safe and secure. Sharon.
Right, Timothy, indeed a very devastating picture there of people who are still looking for their loved ones. And Timothy, do we know the state of those who are evacuated, from the neighboring buildings? We understand yesterday there were so many of them that were just pretty much stranded outside there with their staff, with their property, and they were supposed to be taken to the Daima Primary School. Do we know the state now? Do we know also, because the president had ordered for the evacuation of people, and we know that the area there, you have been covering this since the tragic event broke on Friday night. Do we know the state of the people around, the residents around that area? Are they in a state of panic, trying to move away from this area that is said to be in the waterway?
Yes, indeed, the people are in frantic efforts to move their belongings, as much of it as they can. Of course, there has been downpour, and in fact, the heavens have just ceased. Just a few minutes ago, there were heavy rainfalls within the area, and this even hindered some of them from moving their items. We have been able to identify so many families and so many people with mkokotenis moving their belongings, seats, beddings, mattresses, and the buildings adjacent to the 7-story building that collapsed on Saturday has since been evacuated. There is no person residing in those buildings at the moment. Now, most of the people went to the Daima Primary School as well as the Huruma Social Hall, which we are in, but most of them seeking refuge from good neighbors, from their neighbors and their relatives who are within town. But those who have no relatives nearby then will have to make shelter at the primary school and at the social hall, where the Kenya Red Cross as well as the Nairobi County medical team and services are offering the essentials that they need, cooking services. But of course, the challenge is the weather. These people are mothers with children, and it has been raining since the building collapsed. So it's really a very sorry state of affairs here in Mathare. And considering the proximity of the buildings to each other raises even more danger, because the adjacent buildings, of course, had been seen to have cracks, and this is also raising concern. Of course, the county government, we posed these questions to them, and they were saying that any attempts by the county government to demolish buildings have since been politicized, and any move that the governor's office tries to make in regards to demolition of residential buildings has often been stopped by the area member of parliament, whom the governor Kidero was saying usually intervene and go for court orders and court injunctions to stop these demolitions. Of course, he highlighted Starehe constituency being one of them, and last month they had, of course, downed a building in the area, and the area member of parliament Maina Kanamanda had secured a court injunction to stop these demolitions. So this is one of the challenges that the county is saying is facing in regards to bringing these buildings down, because anytime they earmark one or they mark one for demolition, then politics plays, and that is since stopped as most of the politicians move to court to stop the destruction of these buildings. And this is coming at the expense, as you can see, of Nairobians' lives. 16 people dead so far, many more still trapped, and the operation goes on. Even the superintendent of police was saying the operation may be going on for the next two days to 1 week, Sharon.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Timothy Otieno there reporting from Huruma. We understand that as at now, 67 people are still unaccounted for, and the death toll has risen to 14. Of course, a dire and devastating situation there at Huruma that Timothy continues to update us on. Let's move on now. And Kenyan workers are hoping for an improved minimum wage announcement today as the country joins the world in marking Labor Day. Last year, President Uhuru Kenyatta raised the minimum wage by 12% for the different categories of laborers. The president is expected to lead the Labor Day celebrations at Uhuru Park later today. Let's now join our reporter Chris Thairu, who is at Uhuru Park this moment. And Thairu, what have we learned, or any special announcements this far from your end?
Very good afternoon to you, and I'm coming to live from Uhuru Park, where Kenyans and workers have congregated to mark the 51st Labor Day celebrations. Remember that these celebrations happen worldwide, and it's an international celebration. So far, the Secretary General of Bulletin has already addressed the government, and his call is that the Salaries and Remuneration Commission should be disbanded because they are misadvising the president in terms of the wage bill. And also, according to Kotu, he has already attacked Jacqueline Mugo, who is the chairperson of the Federation of Kenyan Employees, and according to him is that she's also misadvising the president, and that she's not doing a commendable job when she's there. And also I can confirm that at least 12 cabinet secretaries are here to represent the Jubilee government. Remember that the president had already requested or talked to Atuoli, saying that he will not make it for today's function because remember in the morning he was at the airport to receive the body of the late former first lady Mama Lucy Kibaki, and according to the executive is that it's fully represented, the Jubilee government is fully represented, and currently the person addressing the gathering is nominated MP Johnson Sakaja, who is representing members from the legislative side.
All right, that's our reporter there, Chris Thairu, not coming through very clearly, but giving us an update of some of the remarks that have been made there at the celebrations of Labor Day at Uhuru Park. President Uhuru Kenyatta is expected there, he says, any minute from now, and we shall be keeping tabs on that story. Meanwhile, KOTU Secretary General Francis Atuoli is expected to maintain his larger-than-life persona at the Labor Day celebrations today. Atuoli has been touted as a Secretary General for life. After all, he continues to retain the position year in, year out. Our reporter Duncan Khaemba talked to him recently about the questions being asked on the leadership of the country's biggest trade union. Here he is. All right, we shall be taking that story after the break, but right now let's take that short breather and we shall return with that interview by Duncan Khaemba, just talking to the KOTU Secretary General Francis Atuoli shortly after this breather. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with Weekend at One. That exclusive interview that our reporter Duncan Khaemba had with KOTU Secretary General Francis Atuoli shall be coming to you in subsequent bulletins. Now, Court leader Raila Odinga has dismissed the banning of stockpiles of ivory as a public relations exercise to please the international community when poachers and their kingpins are roaming free. He told a rally at Maili Tatu Stadium in Maua Town yesterday that poachers should instead be arrested.
Hakuna haja ya kuchoma pembe ya ndovu ambayo imeshakufa. Ndovu imekufa, kuna haja kuchoma pembe yake. Zuia watu kuua ndovu, sivyo? Na wale ambao wameua ndovu ndio shika, weka pale, wachape viboko, wananchi waone.
The National Cohesion and Integration Commission will seek the support of women networks to spearhead peacekeeping in the country before the 2017 general election. This is according to NCIC National Vice Chairperson Irene Njeri Wanyoike. She spoke at Gakoigo Showground in Murang'a during a prayer forum organized by Maendeleo ya Wanawake organization.
We do not have a spare country. And so we must make sure that Kenya is peaceful. We must make sure as women, the people we are putting in power are peace-loving, even here in Murang'a and even nationally. That the people who are going to take over power next year, they are peace-loving. Amen. They are not warlike. Yes. Because if we elect people who are warlike, who fight, what is going to happen? Our children are going to die. Yes. The old women are going to die. Yes. And even me with my leg, I cannot run. Yes. And so I will do what? I will die.
Well, it is on that sporty note that we wind up today's edition of Weekend at One. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Sharon Momanyi. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing and indeed your weekend.